Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast, episode number 396. I'm your host, Jose. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's episode is with Emme Diane Skincare. It was wonderful to get to know her story, wonderful to have her in the household and share her story in person. So I hope you guys are encouraged to go check her out. We always link every episode in the bios below. We want to make sure that you guys are staying connected to everyone who comes in through our doors. And that being said, let's jump into a little bit of the business side. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. Make it easy for you guys to connect with us under Finding Arizona Podcast, under everything under social media. Last but not least, if you want to send us an email, findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. There, we will try and connect with you guys who send us emails and make sure that you guys are being heard on that level. So, a little bit behind the scenes, we are 1 week away from recording our 400th episode. Yes, 400 episodes. It's been a wonderful, almost a decade of recording episodes with you guys in the community and just sharing your stories on that scale. And it's just been, as someone who's, not really great at being in front of the camera or just, really wanted my best to try and make this thing happen at the same time, I have grown a lot from just hearing your stories. I have grown a lot from editing these episodes and learning how to work this into a business. And I want to say thank you to all of you out there for keeping us in mind for future episodes and wanting to participate and wanting this to continue on forward. Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me and my family. And that being said, I want to say thank you to my wife and my partner and my co-producer, Brittany. Thank you so much for sticking aboard and just, really making this a true business through and through. You are I have to say, you are the reason why we are continuing on forward in a better way, in a better manner after 400 with more incredible episodes, and you are making this into an actual huge thing. And now that I bring that up, it makes me want to just tell you about the Found House. The Found House is where you guys can connect with us and help us make your dreams come true in producing podcasts, video editing, anything in between. We will try and make that as fun as possible, but we'll also try and help you guys out to learn a little bit more on that end as well by teaching you a little bit about what we've been through, and hopefully we can stay partners and work together and make sure that everything goes smooth and you guys can create on that level and be happy with what you produce. So check us out, The Found House. I hope you guys are encouraged to stay connected with us and work through that manner. And that will actually just lead us into episode 396. I hope to see you guys all at episode 400. And I hope that we can continue this forward by having more incredible guests come through our doors. So that being said, I will see you next time. Kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. See ya. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. As always, we bring in fantastic guests every week, and today is no different. I'd love to introduce you to Emme here. And yes, she's already excited. I'm so excited because, one, she's a podcaster that we just found out off air, but two, she has a wonderful business that I'm going to let her introduce because I want to hear it from you and what it is about and what you are here to talk to us about today. Mm-hmm. So take the floor, Emme.
Yeah, so my name is Emme Diane, and I am the founder and CEO of Emme Diane Skincare. So I'm actually an esthetician by trade.
Oh, wow.
So I think that this is like my 25th year of being an esthetician. And, I came into that. I think I was born to be an esthetician. So nice. From a very young age, I started having very problematic skin. I have sensitive skin. I started breaking out at a young age. And I just had this passion to not only try and solve my own skin concerns, but even from a young age, I would have friends at like sleepovers that they want me to do facials on them or like figure out how to help them with their skin. So, I mean, with my first allowance, I went and bought Noxzema and CoverGirl makeup, like trying to fix my skin. Yeah. So as I got older and I realized that being an esthetician was actually a career, I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do in my life. So right out of high school, I became an esthetician, and I worked in both spa aesthetics, and then I worked in medical aesthetics because I was really focused on like the results, getting results for clients as opposed to just, fluffy facials. And it came to a tipping point in my career where I actually got fired. Got it. We could dive into that if you want, but basically it was at that point that I started my own business, Emme Diane Skincare. And I wanted to make sure it was kind of the best of both worlds, where it was, kind of relaxing, but then also very results driven. But it was about a year into starting my business where I felt really out of integrity with the products that I was able to offer clients. Yeah. And the reason is that I had very fortunately had some amazing mentors who came into my life. Yeah. And they taught me everything that I know about skin today, including everything that I know about adult acne, which is really what I specialize in. And it blew my mind because here I was like struggling my whole life, and even as an esthetician, and it was like I could kind of get in this cycle, like where I'd kind of clear and then break out again, and kind of clear and break out again. And everything that they taught me made everything come full circle, where it solved my problem. Yeah. And I realized and I learned that the biggest issue was pore clogging ingredients in skincare. And I was just blown away, because even if products had the right ingredients to clear the skin, if there were pore clogging ingredients present, it would never work. Yeah. And this is what was happening in the industry for whatever reason. And so I thought I was crazy, because I'm like, I can't figure this out. But from that knowledge, I just decided like, okay, I can't find anything that is going to actually work. So, I'm just going to do it myself. Yeah. And that's literally how Emme Diane Skincare started, is that I needed something to work for myself selfishly, but I also was so passionate about finding a true solution for my clients. And so I got really scrappy. I'd like to say, that it was, this great big operation that we started right away, but it was not. I started with one product at a time because I had no money, no savings. And I formulated clarifying serum as my first product. And it's a staple still today in our skincare line. But I was printing out the labels on my home printer. And then I love telling this story. It's kind of, I wish I had pictures from back then, but I was too embarrassed to take it. But I would print labels out on the home printer, and they were waterproof. But when I would touch them with wet hands, they get kind of tacky, almost like if you touched a picture, with damp hands. Yeah. So I went to Home Depot, got like some spray sealant. I would post up all the labels in the carport of my apartment, go spray them down. My neighbors thought I was crazy, I'm sure. And I got really scrappy with it. I'm like, I'm going to find a way. And that's so awesome. Since then we've grown over the last decade, and oh gosh, I don't know how many products we have today. I think probably around 36. Okay. And we are an e-commerce brand that we sell nationwide, but we also sell to 8 countries as well. Awesome. So it's literally grown from your just apartment. A small dream, into something far greater than I ever imagined. Yeah. But I think part of that is my mission is truly, I want to help as many people as I can who struggle with their skin like I did, because I know how much it affects your life, how painful it was, how much it affects your confidence, how you show up in the world. I mean, so many things, the stories I've heard from clients over the years. And so I don't know, I think that's what I'm solely focused on. And I think that's why, the business continues to grow and expand is that passion of wanting to help people. Yeah. I think that's really beautiful. I mean, there's 2 ways I can kind of, from your story, hearing this and just wanting to, fulfilling a need is one aspect of like, you're amidst already working in the actual like clientele and the service industry. And so
one part is that. The other aspect I'd love to also talk about is just kind of like your very beginning as a teenager and as a young person, and just realizing the effect that it had on you personally, but your friends as well. I think that is something we all can relate to, is just that level. I know I had struggles with acne as a child or as a teenager, and I was just so, I guess embarrassed is the word to use, because of what it did to my face. It's the first thing that people kind of look at you and what you present to the world. And so that is always, when you have it, it's something that affects you emotionally, internally. And I tried a little bit of everything to kind of like make that go away, or make something change and to make it better. And it's just, sometimes it's good, and then it comes back, and it's good again, and it comes back. And so definitely can relate to you on that level. I think it's beautiful that that is something that called to you in the very beginning, because we love hearing that story. We love hearing that the person who is behind the product, the person behind the business, has a love for it from the very beginning. And it's just a calling to them that kind of brings them into the world, and brings them, from that calling, just to say, hey, here I am. I've always loved this thing. I've always had, because to me, especially when I hear these stories, it's a beautiful tale of like, I found my passion and I kept going with it, and I never stopped. It's, you don't have a hard day, because every day that you're enjoying something that you're good at, you have a positive day. There's no struggle there's no real like negative day. You just enjoy what you do every day. So I really appreciate you telling us that part of it. So I'd love to just ask you really about some of the kind of early get-goes of, going on into doing your business, and just kind of, I guess I'd love to ask about the firing too, because that seems like a big critical tipping point.
Yeah.
What was the self-talk at that moment of, okay, I've been let go, but I still love what I do. How do I keep going in this business, or in this business realm?
Totally. Well, I got fired. I'll say this, that, I was told that I was not being flexible enough. Okay. And I use that in quotation. So basically I was working for a doctor at a time at a med spa, and she was wanting me to do facials on people that, like, she had just done laser treatments on, or just injected with Botox or injectables. And all of these things are super contraindicated. Like, they're a big no-no.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stood my ground, and I said, no, I'm not willing to, just bring in more revenue, just, and kind of put my reputation on the line, and also do something that's not okay for clients. So I said no, and that's how I got fired. So, I guess it kind of happened to me, but it was the biggest blessing. I just had people around me at the time, and they just said, you just need to start your own practice at this point. And I mean, I had no savings. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and again, I got super scrappy with it. I borrowed a massage table from a friend. I had mismatched linens that I used. I had lots of like free products from trade shows that I was able to use. And so I literally started there, which was super illegal in California, so I don't recommend it. But that's how I started my own practice. And from there, I actually had a side hustle at the time, and I kind of laugh at it today because it's such a big business these days. But I was really into fitness back then, and did some fitness competitions. And I think just simply because I like systems and routines and stuff, I got really good at doing meal prep.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was asked by some of the people that went to the same gym as I. They said, you're really good at that. Could you just do it for me?
Yeah, the meal prep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of made ends meet while I was building my practice.
Awesome.
So it was, facials as much as I could during the day, and then grocery shopping and cooking at night. And so that's kind of how all of that started out. But it wasn't some great, sexy, had all this money, had capital to, start a great business. So I think a lot of it just came down to like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm just going to figure this out no matter what.
Yeah, that's I mean, sometimes that's what it comes down to, is just like this struggle of like making ends meet and trying to really push forward in what you want to do. And so kudos to you for finding that extra something to like help you make ends meet, and just having also the wherewithal to just like overcome the struggles, because it does get hard when you have the early beginnings of like not knowing really where to go or what to do, but just trying to make those products and make them available to the clientele and to the service industry. And you're just like, there's like so much I need to do. And all of these little things that, like, we can get into this, but it's like, having the people give you the bottles, like finding a place where it's a perfect bottle. And then, like you were saying, the actual like label for the bottle and things like that. Not many people realize, like, when you're doing these products, especially when it's something that's people can use and like have to like sell products, it's like these little things that they just forget. It's like, oh, the bottle has to come with the product inside of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and then there's also packaging, things like that. It's like people forget those little details, and it just seems like everything comes straight to them and it's just perfect, and it's already done and made for them, and it's already good to go. It's like, no, there's levels of like people's jobs to get the product out to the masses. So I can relate to you in the sense of like those headaches of, because when I first started doing this podcast, it was like, okay, how do I get the microphones? How does one edit this thing? Or how does it, get out and so people can actually listen to it? Finding out those methods and those stream methods that will help us become more professional, more, just overall just being used and heard. And so that's definitely like in the beginning, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I actually doing here? So it's just been great to like relate to business owners on that matter. And it's just been a lot of fun to hear their, how they've come up and what they've been struggling through. But I love that you have this really great presence of like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this happen. And you have this really, I think it comes from being, the person who's struggled with it, but also someone who's really great at systems, like you said, and just having the understanding of like, if I can find this perfect strategy, it will work. And so that's really great that you have found your perfect strategy. I'd love to also ask you about like the thing about this world, this, facial skin products and things like that. I've always found interesting is like the chemistry part and getting the formula made.
Oh, yes.
Were you a person who like loved that aspect, or were you handing it off to like a science related person who's kind of a little bit more inclined to help make you a formula that works best? And what was that kind of strategy for you?
Such a good question. And I think this is something people wonder about when they ask me about my business. So I'm actually a high school dropout. I was a terrible child, terrible.
No, you've overcome. Let's just say we've overcome those struggles.
Oh yes, I've overcome. I make a really good auntie for anyone who is struggling with a teenager, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know this. So, it was one of those things where it's like, I never took a chemistry class. I think that's a thing in high school. I never got that far. But the thing is that having been in the industry as long as I did, I knew about ingredients, and I knew, okay, I like this ingredient in this percentage, and I know that it does this, and then I know this ingredient, and when I mix it with this one, it does this. Yeah. But to actually put together a formula, I don't know how to do. Okay. And so I was really fortunate and very resourceful to find a mentor who was able to then connect me with a cosmetic chemist who I then would take my idea to and basically kind of say those things where it's like, okay, I would like this ingredient, this percentage mixed with this. And then can we make the formula have this viscosity and maybe like this color or this texture? Yeah. And then they would go and create something. Yeah. So the tricky thing for me is, if you remember how I mentioned pore clogging ingredients in everything.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part, because a lot of people would think like things that would cause acne in a product would be like an oil or like waxes or things like that, that we naturally think like, oh yeah, that would break me out. What I found was so interesting is that it's a lot of like the preservatives, the stabilizers, the pH balancers, like ingredients. Like if you read an ingredient label, you know, you would see these ingredients that make you go cross-eyed and like you don't know how to pronounce them, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times those were the offending ingredients.
Got it.
The problem is that most people don't know this, but basically there are, you know, several huge labs that formulate a lot of products out there, the ones that me and you know very well.
Yes.
And these big labs are a business in and of themselves.
Okay.
So they keep raw material on hand for what they use the most.
Got it.
So the problem was that I kept running into walls where they would come back and they would be able to complete a formula, but they'd have to use the pore clogging ingredient because that's a component that needed to be there to finalize it.
Yeah.
And so this was a challenge for me because I would not compromise on this at all.
Yeah.
So I basically have had to go out and find labs that are able to complete a formula with the ingredients that they have that are going to be 100% acne safe, because a big company, big lab like that isn't going to bring in one ingredient for little old me.
Yeah.
And if they did, it would be
costly,
huge.
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge has been for me.
Okay. Has it meant going to more specific labs to generate these products so that they can kind of, and that means, you know, a special lab and those costs and fees that go behind it as well.
Yeah. I think currently I work with about 8 or 10 labs.
Oh, wow.
So it's also an issue of like, okay, this lab can complete this, but not this and this, you know. So I've joked around forever that like someday I'd like a cosmetic chemist for Christmas, like my own.
Just my own personal one that has everything needed. And
Totally. So maybe someday, but that's costly. But in the meantime, I've been able to develop such great relationships with some of these labs, and you know, at first it was so hard to make. I mean, we hit brick walls. If I were to think back and want to try and attempt it again, I don't know that I would have it in me. But today it's a little easier just because, you know, some of these labs and the chemists, they know how I work, and it's easier to kind of be able to develop things. But that is a challenge, and it's still something. It's so interesting that makeup is a challenge too, because if my clients are female and they struggle with acne, pore clogging ingredients in makeup is a problem. Yeah. And it was interesting. A couple years ago, I started noticing this trend where I was like, oh gosh, it's like I can find more acne safe makeup out there. And now it's reverted back. Wow. And I just, for the life of me, I cannot understand why, but
trend. I mean, I imagine it has to do something with, like you were saying, the actual like ingredients that go into it. And then, I mean, let's face it, like after COVID too, it's like those chains of like having product come in and becoming more difficult and restricted where they come from. That has probably made a big effect as well too. And it's just like looking at it at a larger scale, it's just like having the understanding of, you know, your supply chain versus this supply chain versus, you know, this bigger movement of product going from maybe one country to another country. It's all these little connections, but I imagine it's like, yeah, there was probably something to do with also just the trends, like having people have a very good trend of like wanting acne safe, like non-clogging material. And then just realizing, oh, it's a lot harder than it looks, or it's a lot, you know, more stringent on like having to get the products, and then they just steer right out of it because they're like, oh, well, then we don't want to deal with that kind of headache and things like that. So I
think another big one though is also profit margin.
Make
cheaper products.
Yeah, cheaper products, easier on the pocket. Yeah,
that's a problem too. So,
but kudos to you for having the foundation that you do have to make the products, but also kind of keep your goal of like having these safe products in your services and in your packages and in your in your business to have and want to keep those goals in line with what you guys believe in. So
Thank you.
no problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have very much like high hopes for a lot of the people who come on here and have a goal set in mind, and just hearing their stories and what they believe in and just kind of keeping to that line, because it just means that you're savvy enough to work around, the difficulties behind that goal, but also you have something that you believe in and that foundation to want to keep it. I mean, it's just really, it's incredible to watch. It's incredible to watch people like you just really pull through.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So I love that we got into the chemistry side. I love that you've brought a history with us as well. Now it's kind of moving towards your day-to-day life and trying to suss out or trying to understand what are some of the things that kind of keep you motivated and keep you just involved in this esthetician world, and what brings you joy out of, doing what you do.
Oh gosh. I mean, definitely hearing my clients' stories and their skin journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a card in the mail just recently from a client who was just like, you changed my life, and did,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's like, I can't imagine I like changed her life, but I mean, it's cool to be like a part of that journey where she felt more confident in herself, and just hearing stories from people about, how they can walk around with no makeup on these days, and that's never been a possibility for them, or, hearing them, going and trying to achieve goals that they've set for themselves, but never felt confident enough in themselves and stuff. And so that brings me so much joy, and getting brides ready for their weddings. And I mean, I had one client, and this was like the craziest story, but basically she had incredibly severe acne, and her and her boyfriend were enlisting in the military or the army. I can't remember which one, but she was actually denied. And it was because they said that her skin was a medical condition she had to handle. And what was even worse is that her family, they're supportive of her trying to clear her skin, but it was a situation where her family believed that it was a curse that was put upon her. And so they brought in like a witch doctor to come break the spell. And she would come in telling me these stories of like just appeasing her family and going through this. And so, I've heard the most interesting things, that ultimately we cleared her skin, and she was able to then enlist and go achieve her dream of being a part of the service.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was huge, because I can't imagine, where her life would have been, or where she would have gone if, we weren't able to kind of tackle this together.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so most interesting stories for sure. That keeps
incredible.
me going. Yeah. It's cool.
To help fulfill a dream like that. I mean, just as simple as clearing the skin, just like, not as simple, but it's like just as simple of a thought of like, look, you can't go here without fixing this one issue.
Yes.
And it's just one issue.
Yeah.
And so you just, those stories of like, I've heard, people go through amazingly different scenarios of like trying to clear their skin and trying to make this work for them. So kudos again to like help someone fulfill their dream of like working in the service and just trying to help others, and you helped one.
Totally.
And that's just incredible. I think that you have something very beautiful in your product and in your business and in who you are as a person. Like myself, is just being able to help one that helps many. And that's just really great to hear those stories too, because I get to collect them and get to store them and use them to help share in prosperity of like keeping those stories alive. But again, I know that I am just one aspect of it. The person behind the actual story is the person feeling the emotion and feeling the effects of that. So the fact that we can help, share your story is just really incredible, because we'll be able to share these items to individuals who probably either never heard of you before or just, really struggling for the very first time coming into the whatever issue that they're having with their skin, and seeking out someone like you and wanting someone to help them with their issues. So it's like you can continue those kind of stories onward with helping new clients and new people who are interested in your product.
Totally. And I thank you for that, because again, I mean, it's just, I want to help as many people as I can. So I appreciate you having me on so that I can share my story with new people out there. And
I'm glad that is what keeps you motivated, keeps you going. That's really great. That says a lot about you. Really, I also love to hear about this is, what are the things that are interesting you now in the technology or just in the business as a whole, that keeps you kind of like, okay, I'm excited about this new product, or I'm excited about this new kind of strategy for skincare?
Yeah. One thing that my mind's a little blown right now because I'm like coming around to it, but basically a big piece of my business is it's not just the products, because it's like the products are half the battle. The other half is us troubleshooting all of the outside factors that affect the skin too. And I call them acne triggers. So this can be like makeup, like diets, this can be lifestyle factors. This can be hormonal factors. And so I offer a free online consultation for anyone and everyone who wants to take it, where I'm able to then diagnose what are these triggers that are affecting your skin. What are some suggestions, alternatives? I have tons of resources for people. And then also what products are best for you. But in that process, it's always been me responding to all these consultations. And I also offer free check-ins. So as somebody's going through the process that they need to, I suggest they check in regularly as we adjust things or make sure they're on track. This takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with all of the AI technology coming out, it's like I have personally struggled with it, because I've always felt like if you are dealing with problematic skin and you've tried everything and nothing works, it's like the last thing you want is a computer generated response coming to you with something, whatever. I don't know. I think people want a personal touch. What I'm learning is that people would like personal touch, but they want instant gratification too. And so we are kind of looking and exploring at, okay, how can we use AI to basically, bump back a reply to somebody instantaneously so that we can help them along their journey right away while still not losing that personal touch. And so
I think that's really great, because what you can do with technology like AI is actually what it is basically like. You can personalize, make a second you essentially, and make someone who's as charismatic, as sympathetic, as intelligent about the product and kind of what the things that they do and help with the skin that it's affecting, and provide all of that in a simple, like you said, dialogue with the customer. And if there is something that it can't answer, it bumps back that reply back to you, so that you, the individual who is the expert behind the technology, can actually step in and say, hey, look, we have this for you, or we can actually look even deeper into. So it's adding kind of a virtual assistant, or a kind of a virtual you, so that someone, like you said, needs an instant reply, and you can't provide that because your time is very strict and you're trying to keep this boat afloating. You can provide that to the customer, and so they feel acknowledged, appreciated, and seen.
Totally.
So I think that's really great that you guys are going to do that. I think I have high hopes, because AI is getting better and better every day. And I do feel the exact same way. We are in the same boat as using AI to help us, write better write-ups for our clients, so that, we love every single one. We want to provide them with their own specialized write-up, so that they, are seen and are heard and are specialized into being seen on that written scale, so that they can have this beautiful memory of stepping in here and having this conversation. And they also, if they later down the road, we hope to implement it in people who want to be on the show so that they can be heard right away. When, as parents, we're trying to focus on this little one that we're raising in our world. And so sometimes we can't answer or reply right away to emails, but we want our clients to be heard and seen. We can provide another Brittany that can answer those questions that they need answered. So I totally agree that the technology with AI can help on those little things, those little details that go slipping sometimes because of time and because of the struggle of living as a human being.
Totally. Yeah.
So we've answered a lot of questions. We've answered a lot of things and we've heard a lot from you, but I'd love to kind of push this last bit of our conversation into goal setting and future and what the business is and what it's trying to be. So our listeners can help you achieve those goals. Is there anything that you have set in mind for maybe this year or in the future?
Yeah, I mean, continuing to branch out to help as many people out there that struggle with their skin, like I said, and implementing tools and ways that we can help people more instantaneously, like we talked about. And one of the things is I was exposed to like an AI tool that was texting, like you could just text it and then you could get like amazing answers back of like anything that you need, almost like your own chat GPT.
Yeah.
So after having some conversations with some of my clients about it, and, they had mentioned to me that would be amazing to have something like that. So I think that's on the forefront, but something that's been really big on my heart, even more than helping, just our regular clients out there, is I feel like estheticians are struggling a lot these days.
Yeah.
And, I am privy to some of the conversations just from like Facebook groups and things like that. There's so many estheticians now, and I feel like so many of them are struggling. And I think maybe part of that is just not really having like a niche that they work in, or having, the structure or guidance that might be necessary in order for them to succeed. And it like hurts my heart a little bit, because I know the heart of estheticians, and I know how much they want to help people. And so to bridge the gap, I am hoping to launch kind of a beta group of wholesale estheticians who basically, I'll call it Emme University. They'll go through Emme University. I'll teach them everything that I know about skincare, everything that we do in my practice for our facials, how we treat the skin, so that then they can replicate it in their business and also be able to use our products. And so this is something that I am super excited about, because when I think of the vision of my business, it's kind of tiered. It's like, I want to help people who struggle with their skin to achieve their skin goals. I want to help my team internally to achieve their professional and personal goals. And then it would be amazing if I could help other professionals like me to achieve their professional goals.
I love that.
That's kind of the vision for me in the next year. And I'm super excited about it. I'm just really passionate, because I feel like I'm 45 now. So I feel like I'm at a place in life and also in my career where it's like, I've done the work and kind of in a, like in my sphere. And now I'd love to take what I've learned over my life and just try to help others in exponential ways as much as I can. Because I feel like that's my bigger passion now is,
educate.
On a client level and on a professional level. And I mean, that sounds actually kind of pretentious of me to think I'm so big to be able to do that. But
absolutely. There's no, everyone, like you said, whether it's seeking a niche or just getting overall general kind of understanding foundation, I think you have that. So whether, everyone has this life that they live, and whether you are someone who's seeking out just kind of general knowledge, or if you're looking to get more specific, you can find it somewhere. And you'll find your group of people who want to be in the university that is Emme. And so you shouldn't feel any kind of things that are holding you back.
Totally.
That is something that you've lived through, and that you have the knowledge and you have the understanding of that knowledge of where it comes from, your history, everything we're doing the same exact thing. We want to help our clients. We're at the point of want to help other clients in their podcast making, but we've also had the discussion, well, maybe later down the road, we're not there yet, but it's like maybe later down the road, we have an educational branch of Finding Arizona. Like, what did we struggle with in the beginning? Where, we want to give that 101 class to those who really want to step out into their own kind of podcasting journey. So that is something that we've kind of want to perfect and behind scenes and just really get the nuts and bolts of it down before we actually go out and start doing that. So I agree with you that having those moments of like what you've been through and giving that to the next generation is important, and having that kind of place where they can come to and seek those knowledge is also a different branch of your business, but it's important to make sure that if you believe in it, do it, because you have that, you have that knowledge, and why not give it back?
Totally. Well, and I just would love to see them succeed.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the same way I feel. It's like a more podcast, the merrier for me. I love that. So before we go, we give you the chance to tell everyone where they can find you online, all your social media handles, where they can listen to the podcast, of course. And then this platform is all yours. Take it away. Give everyone all the information.
Thank you. So you can find me at www.emmediane.com. It's spelled E-M-M-E, and then Diane, D-I-A-N-E. I'm on Instagram.
Awesome.
Emme Diane. I am on Facebook. Same thing. I think we're on TikTok. I know we are. But I also, like you mentioned, I have a podcast that I started a little over a year ago. It's called Skin Theory. And I love it because it's a place where I'm really able to explain a lot about those acne triggers, about all the things that affect the skin. I'm dropping all of the knowledge that I have there, and I love doing it. So you can check that out. It's called Skin Theory on anywhere you find podcasts, I believe. So yeah. And then people can email me directly at emmediane.com, or on our website, we have that free online consultation as well, which it's just under the header. It says skin consultation. It's 100% free.
Awesome.
Come check us out for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Emme. Before we go, we have our little outro. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All of our social media handles under Finding Arizona Podcast, X, Instagram, Facebook, and we also have a YouTube page where you can find this episode and so much more in our vlogs as well. So subscribe, tell us who you want in next, and we will try and make that happen. And after every episode, we always say kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Totally.
It's really fun to watch that community grow.
Yes.
Just amazing to see one. So when that's your shot, I was like, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's flattering.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always like,
I get to know you more.
Yeah.
This is my podcast. I was like, wait, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Me either. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right.